40 past the hour. Joining us now, Time Magazine managing editor Rick Stengel here to reveal the latest issue of Time Magazine, which is...
Good morning. Good morning. They call themselves evangelicals. They are Latino Americans who have embraced a evangelical form of Protestantism. Latinos, of course, will become the largest minority in the U.S. and by 2050, and by 2050, half of them will be Protestants. They've forsaken the Catholic Church for all kinds of reasons. They look at kind of a charismatic Protestantism as a way of becoming more American, of assimilating, and it's changing the church, it's changing the country, and it's fascinating.
And you say they're social conservatives.
And they're social conservatives. In fact, they're extremely social conservatives, and I was going to say the reason we started thinking about this, we'd already been working on it, but when Pope Francis was named, everybody started looking at Latin America, and what you've seen in Latin America is it's gone from a place that was 90% Catholic to a place that's now 70% Catholic. Protestantism has made inroads there, and in the U.S., it's really happening.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
What's the reason for leaving the Catholic Church?
Well,
main reasons.
There's all kinds of reasons. Mike is reading the article now. I mean, some of it is I was saying before, is kind of assimilating to America. It makes people feel more American. They're oftentimes rejecting the old world. The old world to them is a Catholic world, and also they all say that they want a more personal relationship with God, which is easier in this kind of evangelical church than in the Catholic Church.
Good question. Partial answer. Latinos are turning not just to Protestantism, but to its evangelical strain for a variety of reasons. Above all, Latinos who convert say they want to know God personally, without a priest as a middleman. More than 35% of Hispanics in America call themselves born again, according to the Pew Forum, and 9 out of 10 evangelicals say a spiritual search drove their conversion. People are looking for a real experience with God.
So you get the idea that they want to become more American, whatever that means, but why would Latinos particularly have this view of how they want to relate to God and how they want to participate in religion?
As opposed to others.
I don't. It's probably isn't opposed to others.
They're probably coming from country, though, and I speak in ignorance here. You're the expert when it comes to all things religious and theological. But they're coming from a country that most likely, a lot of Latin American countries, where the Catholic Church is the church.
Right.
There aren't. It's not like you have mega churches.
Yeah. And I don't want to make they don't have mega churches, and I don't want to make a terrible generalization, but obviously they link the church with government from the places that they came from in Latin America.
Structure.
It can seem oppressive and authoritarian. This church seems more open. They have more freedom. The piece, by the way, Mike, you were reading, the beautiful prose, is by Elizabeth Diaz, who's in our Washington bureau, who has been all over the country reporting this story.
Want some more? An explanation for your question?
Okay, answer my question, Mike.
Among evangelicos, worship is adaptable and open to self-expression. You want to pray aloud in your pew, do it at the top of your voice, even when the pastor is praying. Want to fall to your knees? Run to the altar. Sing in Spanish and switch to English at verse 3? Go for it.
Yeah.
Mike, if you're not busy, you can do live readings of our cover stories.
I'm doing one today at 9:30.
Okay.
That would be fantastic. No, the politics of this, though, is obviously, and we always try to predict what's going to happen after Goldwater got destroyed in '64. The prediction was the Republican Party was dead. 2 years later, the modern Republican Party was born with Ronald Reagan's election in California. Here, people look at this Hispanic explosion and demographic explosion, say, this is going to benefit the Democrats because it's benefiting the Democrats in 2012. I don't think it'll benefit Democrats in 2022. Hispanics, even Catholic Hispanics, are more conservative culturally than are white Caucasian Democrats.
And Ronald Reagan famously said, as you know, that Latinos are Republicans. They just don't know it yet. What has been unfortunate, I suppose, for the Republican Party is that they haven't been able to message that these folks are Republicans.
Well, we've been pushing them away. I mean, we've been pushing the voters away. But what's fascinating is you also see cross currents in the evangelical church in general that is socially conservative, but also they're Matthew 25 Christians, as I call them, people that want to feed the poor. You talk about social justice. This is another strain where evangelical Hispanics are going to be like younger evangelicals across the board now, who are less obsessed on the social issues that we used to fight about and a lot more obsessed on taking care of, AIDS in Africa, or taking care of the poor, the needy.
In fact, Elizabeth makes the point in the story that there's a much more literal and true kind of representation of feeding the hungry and clothing the naked in these churches, and the Latino Protestants really embrace that.
You have another piece in this week's issue of Time. It's fascinating. The mystery
really
of animal grief. Tell us about it.
Yes, there's a new book about the nature and the idea of animals grieving. And the piece by Jeff Kluger begins with a kind of fantastic anecdote about crows that gather a crow that has died. This group of crows, I think the collective noun for crows is actually a really interesting word. I don't remember what it is, but they gather around a dead crow. Something like a murder of crows or something like that. But it's a fascinating book about how elephants, horses, dogs all seem to have rituals almost that are similar to our rituals in terms of grieving for a fellow creature, and it's just kind of fascinating. And I was telling Miko before that, to me it really is an evolutionary thing. Probably our rituals of grief grew out of things that were done in the primitive ancestral state that wouldn't look exactly like a funeral now, but actually what we have evolved from that.
And they look at dogs. By the way, there's a reason. The proper term for a flock of crows is the murder of crows.
Oh.
That's just strange.
Yeah, there you go.
Looking at dogs and also horses.
And horses. So there are many examples of again, dogs, horses that spend weeks and weeks after someone in their family has died, or somebody who's been intimate with them has died, and only now are people really looking at it and kind of examining it and trying to figure out where that comes from.
Absolutely fascinating. Rick Stengel, thank you. The cover of Time magazine this week is the Latino Reformation inside the new Hispanic churches transforming religion in America.
Also in Time magazine this week, Rand Paul, the Rebel.
Hello.
A fascinating story about the new Republican Party and how Rand Paul may help shape it.
Rick,
it's all in Time this week.
Thank you.
Up next, go ahead.
No, I thought you were going to touch on that because he is actually making inroads with evangelical Protestants, and he's moving away from the libertarianism of his father towards something that's more traditionally conservative. Yeah.
There you go. That's in Time. Up next, you're looking at him, the head coach of the U.S. men's national soccer team, Jurgen Klinsmann, joins us on the set along with ESPN soccer analyst Roger Bennett.